All right. Hello, everybody. It is Monday at 2 p.m., and I want to welcome you all to the first edition of the Online Art to Science program. Of course, we can't have summer camps in
Hello,
person.
everybody. It is Monday at
I was worried that I was going to hear myself on delay. So if you're watching on YouTube, there is a 30-second delay from this Zoom meeting. So we can't have summer camps in person. So we are going to be live streaming activities that you can follow along with at home between now and through the end of July. We're going to do it 3 times a week for 3 different audiences. So the idea is that Monday afternoons here at 2 o'clock, it's going to be for the younger kids, the kids that are usually the audience of the camp, so around ages 7 to 11. And our goal is to have activities that the kids can do on their own. So if a parent, as a parent, if you're busy, you could just kind of set your child up, and they should be able to do most of the activities on their own is the hope. Thursday afternoons, we're going to be having kind of higher level activities aimed at teens and young adults or old adults, however old you are. Those will be more challenging, but they're also meant to be things that the teens or adults can do on their own, hopefully without parent supervision. On Saturday mornings, we're going to be hosting activities for the whole family. So these might be things that are maybe aimed at younger kids but need parental help, or just things that people of all ages can enjoy, or maybe it's easier to do with multiple people. So those are kind of the 3 audiences that we're going to be aiming activities at. Everything will also be recorded and put on YouTube, so if you miss something, you can catch it later. And if you are local to the South Bend area, we're going to be doing supply pickups every Wednesday. And so that's starting this Wednesday night from 7 to 8. The address, it's a park somewhat close to campus, but that is on the website with the activities. So if you want to get supplies for the paper making circuits this Thursday afternoon, we don't have any supplies, but Saturday is going to be an activity led by the Snite Art Museum. And then Monday, we're going to be doing some more stuff in the kitchen, looking at weird properties of solids. So if you want to get supplies for any of those 3 activities, that will be available Wednesday night for pickup. The supplies will be free, but it will just be however many we have, we'll have them until they're gone. Okay, so today you guys are going to be making some candy, and Mckenna Wallace is an undergrad student. I'm going to let her introduce herself. She is doing research with me this summer, and part of her research project is actually evaluating this online program and how it may differ from the in-person program, if it was useful to people, especially if you've participated in the in-person view. We want to know how this compares to the in-person activity versus the online activity. And I'll say more about that at the end and give you a link in the chat so that you can also access that. So I may actually have to unmute her. All right, so Mckenna, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you so that you can introduce yourself and the activity. I'm going to mute myself.
All right, hi everyone, I'm Mckenna, and I get to lead your activity today, so I'm really excited to do that. I love science, and I love science that we can do at home. So this was one of the things that Dr. Kilburn and I talked about, being able to do it with supplies at home. So I hope all of you guys have your string, your sugar, your water in a microwavable container. And then there's a few other things. We need something that we can scoop your sugar with. Do you guys have measuring cups or something like it? I've got a half cup right here. And then this is the container that I'm going to make the rock candy in. So we're going to start off with 1 cup of water in a microwavable container. So I've got my 1 cup of water here in a microwavable container. And we're going to start adding sugar to it. So we want to get as much sugar as possible into the water. And that's going to take a little bit of a process for us because we're going to add sugar, mix it, microwave it. So here's my first half cup of sugar. And see how it's all white and cloudy right now? We want to mix it until it becomes a clear liquid again. So go ahead and put a half cup of sugar into your 1 cup of water and begin mixing it. You guys ever thought about how much sugar you can get into water? How much of it is going to dissolve? So for this first half cup, we should see all of it dissolve. So as we mix it, eventually there shouldn't be any little sugar grains in there anymore. Right, so you guys can see it's still cloudy, but it's a little bit more clear than it was before. So we're going to keep mixing it. All right, and now it looks almost like all the little crystals are dissolved. So I'm going to go ahead and put mine in the microwave for 30 seconds. My microwave is very loud. All right, and after 30 seconds, I don't really have any visible sugar crystals in my water anymore. I'm going to give it a little bit more of a mix to make sure that that whole half cup we put in dissolved. And then we're going to add another half cup of sugar. So see, you can see there's still some little crystals at the bottom there. So I'm going to mix it around until those are gone. All right, and while we're waiting for that to dissolve a little bit, we need to make the strings that we're going to use for the rock candy to grow on. So my containers are kind of short, and I don't want the string to touch the bottom. So we're going to measure about, I think here looks good. And I've actually got a nice little clothespin that I can use. And we're going to get that string wet. And when it's nice and wet, we're going to set it aside. And we're actually going to put some sugar on top of it. And this is going to help our rock candy grow. This sugar will attract the other sugar in the water to get that crystal started. So here's the second string. I'm going to measure it, see how long I want it to be in there. So we don't want it to touch the bottom, so that looks good. And again, we're going to dip it in the water. And then we're going to put it in the sugar. So I've got some sugar in here. I'm just going to sprinkle on top. And we'll set those aside to dry while we make the rest of the rock candy solution. So see, here's my string now, and it's got the nice sugar on it. All right, and it looks like we're back to clear. So we're going to add another half cup of sugar to our water. All right, now it's all murky again, but we're going to mix it, and we're going to keep mixing it. And when it gets to be most of the crystals dissolved, we're going to put it back in the microwave again for 30 seconds. Right, and right now your water should be maybe slightly warm, but it's not very hot to touch. So we're going to microwave it quite a bit more, and it still shouldn't be too hot to touch. So make sure before you decide to put it back in the microwave that it isn't too hot already. All right, look at that. So it's not as white, it's still murky, but it's definitely dissolving. And I'm gonna put mine in the microwave again now for 30 seconds. And it's just a little bit warm, so it shouldn't be too hot after microwaving again. All right, did you guys all get your strings ready for the rock candy? Dip them in the water and then dip them in the sugar. Awesome. And if you want, at the end, I'm going to add some colors to mine. Purple's my favorite color, so I want purple rock candy. So I'm going to add some blue and some red in to my solution at the end. All right, so it looks like we need to mix this a little bit longer. It's still kind of murky. So we want to make sure that all the little sugar crystals are dissolved. Eventually, what you're going to have is going to feel more like a syrup than it is going to be like water. See, all right, so I'm going to add my next half cup of sugar. And you want to keep mixing it. You want to get all those little crystals dissolved. All right. And if you don't have the stuff with you today to make it, this is also going to be recorded and put on YouTube to watch later. So you can always watch me make it now and then later go back and make it for yourself. So even if you don't have the supplies with you today, that's okay. And if you're not doing it along with me, it's fun to think about different ways that you could do this. Do you guys have any idea of other things you might be able to do this with? We're dissolving sugar. Are there other things we can dissolve into water? I can think of a few things. Make salt water. Let's see here. All right, and you're welcome to type in the chat, or if you want to say something to me, I can unmute you. Right, so it's looking like a little bit more of a syrup, but I don't have all of the crystals dissolved in this one yet. So I'm going to mix a little longer and then we're going to put it in the microwave again.
Can you repeat the proportions that people should start with?
Yeah, so we want 1 cup of water, and then you're going to end up adding 2 cups of sugar. But the thing is, we want to get as much sugar dissolved as possible. So if you've got all your crystals dissolving, no problem. Keep adding a little bit of sugar until it's completely full of sugar. So the water, we want it to not be able to take any more sugar in. So I started with 1 cup of water, and so far I have added 1.5 cups of sugar. So now we're going to put this in the microwave for another 30 seconds. And again, it's not too hot to touch, so we can microwave it and we'll be safe. And I did do some of this earlier. So here's a start of some rock candy. This one was on a stick, and today we're doing on strings. So it's fun to see the different ways that we can actually make this rock candy too. All right, so it looks like I can add my last half cup of sugar in here. But we're gonna have to do a lot of mixing, a lot of stirring before it's completely mixed in. If we don't have the sugar completely mixed in, then the rock candy is either not going to start forming on your string, or it's going to start growing on the sides of the container or wherever there's little crystals of sugar around. So we want to make sure that it's all nice and mixed in so that our rock candy is on the string and we can take it out and eat it. And if you do want to do it on a stick, I used a skewer, like you would make shish kebabs on, a bamboo skewer. So that works just as well as the string does. And it's fun to see those different ways. There are other ways you could think. What else could you use to do this? Let's see. Oh, and we have some fun ideas too. A few drops of lemon juice. A few drops of lemon juice shouldn't react or shouldn't cause the crystals not to form. We just want to make sure that the solution is super full of sugar. So if you add a few drops of the lemon, you also want to make sure that you have as much sugar as possible mixed into your water. And if the crystals are still there, if it's not completely dissolving, you just want to microwave it for another 30 seconds, mix it, microwave, mix it, and keep going. So I really like that suggestion of adding a few drops of lemon juice. So I'm going to try it too. I'm going to make purple rock candy, and it's going to have a few drops of lemon juice in it. All right, so I've added all the sugar to my solution, but I don't know if you can see, there's all kinds of little crystals still floating around in there. So I'm going to microwave it again for 30 seconds, and then we're going to keep mixing. And it's super important. We want to get all those crystals dissolved. Let's see. Oh, we have some fun ideas. Peppermint oil. So as long as you don't add a lot of other stuff, so just a little bit of flavoring should be enough, then you could totally experiment with it. All right, so I've got my microwave for 30 seconds, and then we're gonna mix it a little bit more. And then I think I'm gonna add my color in. All right, so I still have a couple of crystals in here, so we're gonna mix it a little bit longer. We wanna completely get all of those dissolved. And then for the containers you're using to have your rock candy form in, you wanna make sure that they are glass containers. So maybe a jar like I'm using, or a drinking glass where it's smooth on the inside, because the crystals like to start growing on any surface that isn't smooth. So they'll cling to other crystals of sugar, they'll cling to little cracks or different textures on the glass. So I'm using little mason jars. You could use a drinking glass or a mason jar or anything you have that's smooth on the inside. And I like using a clear container because then I can see the crystals grow. So I can check on them throughout the week. All right, so it looks like I need to microwave mine one more time. I still see some little crystals and it's still not too hot. So as long as it's not too hot for me to touch and hold, then I'm safe to put it in the microwave again. My strings are drying very nicely. You can see the sugar is sticking on there. And we have to seed our strings. We have to put those little sugar crystals on there so that's where the crystals will form for our rock candy. Otherwise, they're going to form anywhere that there's the other little crystals, because as the water dehydrates out of our solution, the sugar becomes a crystal again and it solidifies. So we are looking pretty good on dissolved sugar in here now. And the water does seem a little bit more syrupy than before. I'm gonna add my colorant and start mixing with that. I'm gonna do 1 drop of red. And I'm gonna do 1 drop of blue, and hopefully that'll give me the purple that I'm looking for. It's definitely turning a light purple. Right, and it looks like all of my sugar has dissolved now. But I want to try adding a few drops of lemon juice. So I'm going to add a few drops of lemon juice to mine. So here I've got some lemon juice. All right, and I'm going to mix it up and then see how our sugar is doing. So if you look at the bottom of your container, if you're mixing in something see-through, that's where I can see there's still some little sugar crystals that haven't dissolved yet. So I'm gonna keep mixing this. It's a nice purple color now. I'm gonna have purple lemon flavored rock candy. And it takes about a week to have your rock candy form fully. So once you do this, you want to leave it someplace for a week without disturbing it. You can go in and look at it, take pictures and check out the new crystals for me, but you don't want to touch it too much or move it around because the crystals can fall. And I actually tried my own experiment. I had one in the dark and then one in the sunlight. And I found that the one in the sunlight grew faster for me, but it might be different for you. I think you guys should try your own experiment at home when you do this. So I'm gonna leave both of these in the sun, I think, because I wanna see if they do happen fast. All right, so I still see some sugar in there that isn't dissolved yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and microwave it again. But first I wanna check that it's not too hot for me to hold. So it still is, it's warm, but it's not hot yet. So I'm gonna put it back in the microwave. All right, and while that's in the microwave, yes, I wasn't clear on that. I'm gonna put one again in the sun and I'm gonna put one again in the dark. To see if the one from the sun does grow faster than the one that's in the dark. So I have a little bookshelf right next to a window. So I'm just gonna put one into the bookshelf where it's dark all the time and one right on the windowsill to see if the crystals form faster than the one on the windowsill. All right, so this is starting to look really good. It's turning clear again. And I don't have too many crystals on the bottom, but I want to stir it until there are no more crystals. So I'm going to keep stirring it for a little bit here. And it is a little bit hot now, so I don't want to microwave it again for a while if I'm going to microwave it. But I can definitely smell that little bit of lemon juice, so these are going to be fun. I hope someone's gonna try seeing how much lemon juice they can put in before it doesn't form crystals anymore, because I'd be curious to see how lemony you can make these. All right, so I do see little bubbles in here from my mixing. but I don't see any solid grains on the bottom. So I am going to pour my mixture into the jars that I prepared. And just to show you guys what it was like when I did it with a skewer, here's one that I haven't seeded. And I would just clip it into my clothespin and suspend it like this. So again, not touching the bottom. We want to make sure that there is room for the crystals to grow on the stick. And with the string today, it's the same thing. We want to suspend it. So there's our seeded string suspended. But before we even put that string in, we want to pour in our mixture. So I've got my purple lemon rock candy. So there's one. And it looks like I have a little left, so I'm actually going to just top these guys off. Right about there. And then when we're putting the string in, we want to be careful not to knock too much of the sugar off, because the rock candy likes to form on the crystals that already are in there. So let's see here. You can see some of my sugar has already dripped off of my string here because I've moved it around a lot. So we want to be super gentle with it and let it sit in the same place for a while before you move it, so that we know everything is nice and secure on there. So I'm putting this one in gently. There we go. And that one's much better. None of the crystals fell off into my rock candy mixture. So there are my two. I'm going to put this one in the dark bookcase. I'm going to put this one on the windowsill and see which one happens faster. And let's talk about quickly how to get a string or a skewer ready. So here I have just some string. And luckily I have a little bit of my syrup left over. So there's two ways that you could do this. You could use water and sugar and let the sugar dry before putting it into your jars. Or you can use the syrup, dip your string in that. And again, you want to let it dry before you put it into your jar. So now this string is covered in the syrup, and I would just let that dry before suspending it. Or you could do it with a skewer. So we've got a few questions. Let's see. So how to get the crystals. So if you want, if we're talking about seeding the string, that would be either dipping it in the sugar solution like we did these two and letting it dry, or dipping it in the sugar solution or water and then into sugar itself to coat it, and then you let that dry. The crystals will start to form on, the crystals from your sugar solution will start to form on the string or on the skewer, because as the water evaporates from our solution here, we're left with the sugar, and the sugar crystallizes and it really likes to join its buddies. So it's going to join the crystal, the sugar crystals that are either on our skewer or on our string that we put in there to get the rock candy. It does take about a week to get the crystals completely formed. And let's see, ooh, flavored syrup. That would be a fun experiment to do. Sylvia, why don't you try the flavored syrup? And I'd be curious to know how that goes, because flavored syrup does have some sugar in it already. So that would be very interesting. I think that's a good thing to try. Does anyone else have any ideas what they could try with theirs? We've got flavored syrup. Someone suggested peppermint oil. Someone said lemon juice, and I was really excited about that, so I added lemon juice to mine. Ooh, vanilla. That would be interesting, and that's an extract. So that doesn't have the sugar that a flavored syrup would have. What about other things you could do it with? We did it with sugar, and I suggested you could also do it maybe with salt. Can anyone think of anything else we might be able to do this with? What about other sweeteners? I really like honey. Do you think we could try it with honey? Would honey work? Maybe that'll be my next experiment, is trying it with honey. So I just want to go over one more time how we did this so that you'll be able to do it at home. So you need 1 cup of water. You need 2 cups of sugar. And you want to mix the sugar in a little bit at a time until it's dissolved. Microwaving for 30 seconds if you can't get the crystals to dissolve. And then when you're ready, you can pour it into your container. And then put in your seeded string or your seeded skewer. And that was again by either dipping it in water and then sugar, or dipping it in your solution, or your solution and then sugar. All right, and ooh, it looks like we have a question too. Did anyone try artificial sweetener instead of sugar? I don't have any artificial sweetener at home, but that would definitely be another fun one. Or what could you use something instead of water? I really like apple juice. Could I try apple juice instead of water? I don't know. But that's definitely a good thing to use and experiment later. So I think my next 2 experiments will be honey and apple juice. And we'll see how that turns out.
Did anyone want to ask any questions? We can unmute you if you want to just ask a question instead of typing in. Any questions? And I didn't see any questions on the YouTube feed, but you can also type in the chat over there if you have questions. No questions. Okay, so some of the suggestions that were made for further exploration, you can try putting it in the dark or in light to see if it takes the same amount of time, or maybe if the crystals are the same size after they form. You can try lots of different kinds of sweeteners to see how it works. Maple syrup, agave, honey, those are all kind of liquid forms, but they're brown sugar. Molasses is also somewhat liquid. So lots of different sweeteners that you could try, lots of different additives that you guys came up with: vanilla, peppermint, lemon, food coloring, other syrups. There is a question, McKenna, can you put it in the refrigerator or freezer?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. So if you put this in the refrigerator or freezer, it would get cold, right? One of the things that we want to happen in order to get the sugar crystals to form is we want the water to evaporate out. So what do we need in order for the water to evaporate out? What causes the water to evaporate just in our water system? Like if it rains. Heat, yeah, heat. So we actually need the water to be able to evaporate out. And in the refrigerator, it's not likely to happen, especially if you put it in the freezer, where you might end up with some some mushy popsicle instead of a rock candy. But maybe it's something worth trying. I'm not sure what would happen to this much sugar in water if you put it in the freezer. So
That is a
it
good
could be a fun experiment.
Luckily, one of the nice things about science is anytime you have a question like that, you can always just try it and find out. And in fact, that's how we find things out. We don't just know answers intuitively. We might have good guesses. Like Mckenna was thinking through, we need the water to evaporate. So how does the refrigerator and freezer affect that process? But you need experience to be able to think through that. And the way that you gain experience is actually just by doing the experiments sometime. So we definitely encourage you to try out anything that seems fun. Of course, since you're making rock candy, you can't add anything that you wouldn't eat. That's the one important thing with this. If you want to eat it afterwards, you can only use sugars or sweeteners or liquids that you would eat normally and put it in containers that are safe for eating from. Does anybody have any other questions about this project or things that you want to try? So I do apologize for the technical difficulties at the beginning. This is our first time and we thought we had all the bugs worked out, but of course there's always a learning curve with new technology. I also want to remind you of a few things. So the next activity is going to be Thursday afternoon. It's aimed at older kids, but this is actually something we've done in the camp before. So it's for anybody. And I'm going to put the survey link in the chat now on the Zoom. It is also linked from the website where you found the activities and the links. One thing I forgot to mention earlier, we are going to be having a kind of a photo slideshow area for an end of summer art show. So do take pictures of your projects as you go. Take pictures of your crystals. I'm going to be setting up an area where you can upload those photos so that we can kind of have like a virtual art show of everybody's projects at the end. Supply pickup Wednesday night. And if there aren't any other questions, we're going to go ahead and sign off here. I'll leave it open just a couple more minutes if anybody has questions for Mckenna. And otherwise, we hope to see you Thursday or next Monday.
All right. Well, I'm going to hang around here just for a few minutes. You're welcome to ask me about more than just the rock candy experiment. I've got all kinds of interests. I have 2 cats. Love to talk about those. And I do a lot of fun science experiments at my house. So if you have any questions about what materials you should have on hand for science experiments, I could chat about that too.